Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't recognize that voice over there, if I had his bell, I would let you know that this is your warning. Put your headphones in. Normally we keep this channel pretty safe for work. You want to listen to it at work. You want to listen to it around your kids. You want to listen to it with speakers on and not worry about somebody walking by, but we're going to be reacting to Xenos. So get those headphones in or come back and watch it later because he uses plenty of foul language. I use lots of foul language outside of content creation. And you know, I grew up, you know, my brothers and I are very comfortable with that, especially around video games. So I've always enjoyed his content, but I want to give you a heads up as we talk about housing. This is going to be a big, deep topic. I am viewing these kind of reactions as a place to jump off of from hopefully a point of kind of helping educate and catch people up. We have a lot of new faces in the community over the last couple years, and a lot of the topics that have been the hot topics lately do have a long history with the game. So those of us that have been around a while may be taking for advantage how much awareness we have over the feelings being very, very long here. And so let's jump in. I'm going to try to give some context. I'm on the same server as Xenos here, so I've got the ability to also check in on what he was recording because I don't know when this was recorded, and I'm still within the same housing window because I am filming this on May 24th. And so the housing fix is going out. People have till the 26th to claim, and the housing lottery will return on May 27th. Let's dive in.
Dude, this is so stupid. Look at this. Look at this fucking garbage. Look at this garbage. You know what else is garbage is the fact that like one person can own an entire ward. Dude, fuck them, man. Take their houses away. Like, dude, this is so stupid. This doesn't make any sense, man. All right, that's it. New video. New video.
All right, Xeno. Let's talk about housing.
All right, this video's on housing. Now, I want to start this video off by saying I don't really care too much about housing. I'm just pointing out the stupidity of the housing. I want you guys to look at this because this is absolutely fucking ridiculous. How is this in the game? Okay, the housing lottery system won't ever fix shit when you have entire wards owned by one person across 59 FCs. How is this okay? Look at this shit. Dude, fuck this person. Just take their houses away. Why do you need this many houses? It doesn't make any sense. Why do you need this many houses? You should be able to have one house per account. That's it. That is it. Okay, so basically Square Enix is saying, you know what? We're too pussy to remove these houses from this person because we don't want to piss them off. Fuck this person, dude. Fuck them. Who cares if you piss them off? Okay, you know what? You piss this person off by taking all their houses away except one, and you make so many people happy.
So many. The most I've ever heard of anybody owning is a full ward. There are several players that do. It's possible people own more. The most I've just ever personally, anecdotally seen evidence like this posted up is 60 full houses all in the same blocks. Sometimes that's a small group of friends that do it over a series of them. But basically it's one small group has taken this away. How many people are they really denying this to? 59 other people. That's the number. So when they say so many, the problem with this is we are sitting here and we've got 10 loaves of bread and we've got 10,000 hungry people. And one guy runs off with a whole loaf for himself. Is that guy a dick? Yes. Should we consider taking that guy's bread away? Yes, but in all honesty, let's stop and think logically for a moment and not equate that set of decisions with the ability to fix the whole thing. Because now you've got one loaf of bread. You left that guy with none. So screw him, Xenos says. What happens? Now we've got one loaf of bread. We still got 10,000 people. The core problem is there is not enough houses. There will never be enough houses. Yes, right now there are houses available in Ishgard right now, but those will fill. And once they fill, there will be people that say, oh, if I just had the money, I had a house. The money is small potatoes. The issue is the shortage. There will be a shortage. So if you do not get yours in the next lottery, especially those of you that want personal houses, now that less of the wards want personal houses, we'll talk about the history here in a minute. Once we finish Xenos' video, we're going to move into a history of housing coming off of this. But effectively there are less personal wards. What's going to happen is any of those people that gave theirs up, theirs across all the other wards are going to enter a lottery, entering a 9-day cycle, starting with a 4-day ticket window beginning on May 27th, and then those will likely all be gone, and then that's it for personal housing until they add another ward. And just like this, by the time Ishgard was in, people were already asking for Garlemald housing. They're already asking for housing on the moon. It doesn't matter if they had housing with 7.0, and again with 7.3, before that housing even releases, there will be people saying, yeah, but what about, and there's always going to be more because there is a fundamental, ground up, foundational problem with housing in this game.
You make so many people happy. That's the better option.
so many.
There's no reason why you
59.
should have an entire fucking ward for this shit. I don't care if they were grandfathered in or not. It doesn't make any sense. The only reason why this shit was tolerated was because they probably got this shit right when housing came out. It was like a different time in the game.
The prices have never really been adjusted, so back then the price restricted. It was extremely expensive relative to what we could make at the time, and then slowly the prices ticked down, and it was this game of chicken. If I wait a little bit longer, it'll tick down, but what if somebody buys it before me? So you and your friends were raising money, trying to get into it. I know that my free company got one in ARR, and so we've had ours in the Limsa, in the Mist, ever since ARR, and it was a huge deal. It's a small little plot. At this point, it's kind of nostalgic. Could we upgrade it? Yeah, I guess, but at this point, like, it's been our house since ARR, so it's kind of like our childhood home. I don't really want my Warrior of Light to move, but I mean, if there was an overwhelming desire within the free company, maybe that's something we'd look into. There's a lot available in Ishgard, but I don't know. It's the place it's always been.
Housing was much different. You could actually sell your house to people. You weren't supposed to, but you could. But basically, this is ridiculous. So Square Enix is okay with one person having this many houses. And at the same time, Square...
Not okay, simply not cracking down on people that have operated within previous tolerances. Because once they open up the door to going back and looking at past behavior and causing that to cause current action, it causes a whole realm of things. Just like for streamers that theoretically, what if there were streamers out there that were aware of add-ons? What if they could go out and start popping people for past streams? To my knowledge, they might look within recent history, within like contextual history. You know, hey, they're being reported today. They've only got VODs up for the last 28 days. They're a variety streamer. Let's check out their VODs of the last time they played 14. Maybe they do that, maybe they don't. But to my knowledge, they've never gone back and punished somebody for running an add-on 2 years ago. And so they have not been in a history of going back and doing any behavior for something way in the past. I understand why people want that in this case, but I also understand why Square goes, I don't want to get in messing with time. Those people will eventually peter out of this game and likely quit, and when they do, all 60 will time out because this is a resource that obligates you to stay subscribed and logging in once every 45 days, or they lose them. Not only logging in, but visiting those houses. It's not just logging in. They have to walk in and out of all 60 houses, or they lose them all.
Square Enix is okay with this shit. Look at this shit. I bet it's like this on every server. I bet you it's like this on every server. You know why all these houses are free? It's because they're FC only.
Okay, so let's pause real quick because it is May 24th, so we are coming up on the end of the window for people to claim from the 0 lottery ticket draw. We're going to talk about the lottery tickets when I get to the more factual part of this stream. Let me tab over here. All right, so I am on Sargatanas. I play on the same server as Xenos, so I'm operating on the same information, just at a point later in the future than when he filmed. Hi from the past or the future, however time works. So we've got our residential district here. Let's take a look and see how many it is, because what he's showing is really important to the points he's about to make. So, are there some available within free company wards? Free company wards are the first, I believe, 18 wards. And then I believe the last 6 are for personal. So are there some available? Yes, there are some available. Plenty. And so I want to kind of note what's going on here. I just want to use as up-to-date information. I don't want anybody looking back at this and saying, well, that's not accurate. He is using information that has stayed relatively accurate, so I just want to kind of have this documented. That way, if we're ever talking about this in the future, I have this footage of tabbing through a bunch of these and checking them out, and when we jump into the personals, you'll see totally full, totally full. We jump to 20, totally full, 1 left. 1 left. We're at 1 total. Oh, that's 2, 3, 4. Now we jump up to these. So with these errors, once the errors worked themselves out, there is a total of 5 personal houses left unclaimed in personals, where there are dozens and dozens within free companies. I believe there are some here that are not from his R. It looks like all of the larges have been claimed at an initial glance. Maybe I missed one in there, but it looked like at an initial glance all the big L's here got claimed, and a fair number of the mediums. You have to assume by the way people are picking these out and the fact that it's a lot of the same spots over and over, like this 7 spot keeps getting taken. There's probably something pretty desirable about that without me taking time to go nitpick into why somebody picks the plot they pick. And so let's just keep moving.
What kind of sense does it make where in a game there's not enough personal housing for everybody? That's your first problem. The second problem is you devote way too many wards to FCs. There's not enough FCs for this many housing. Like,
that's a major point. Hold that thought. When we go through the timeline of how housing got to where it is, I think there's some context here that's a lot bigger than just like what I think and what Xeno thinks. It's how did the devs think this is a good idea? That is a journey that takes us way back to like 2013 or 14 and carries us through several iterations through today. So I have a whole bunch of tabs up. We're going to visit some patch notes and talk about what was going on with the game as best as I can recall and help say, like, while I don't think today is good, I also think the devs were making the best decision available at the time based on the information and the capabilities they had at the time, and they got here not because it was the desired outcome, but because it was the result of a bunch of maybe false assumptions, maybe hopeful assumptions, maybe false hopeful assumptions, to put those together, and they got here through a series of those. It wasn't one big, we woke up one day and said, I think the housing system of 2022 should be this. It's gonna be awesome. No, there is a ton of people within, when we hear responses from the dev team, there is plenty of stuff on their side where they're not entirely thrilled with where we are. It's just as a result of where we've been.
on your guys' server, does the FC wards look similar to this? It does, right? Houses aren't bugs. Shut the fuck up. This was like this before the fucking bug even went out. Why the fuck did they think it was a good idea to make 1 through 18 FC wards and only 6 fucking personal wards? It doesn't make any sense. You have 2 extreme problems. One extreme problem is there's way too many FC housing wards. Your second problem is this. You have people that literally own entire wards.
I think this is a false flag. Are those people causing a problem? Yes, but I believe that you're talking about like a very, very narrow section. I believe you're talking about like on the highway, I got passed by somebody driving some like beach buggy and they're driving like 40 and a 60 in the right-hand lane causing traffic jams, and we're getting hung up on that when that's one guy. So yes, is this person causing a traffic jam when they are on the highway? Are they the beach buggy in that case? Absolutely. But across the total number of plots, across the total number of wards, across the total number of servers, across the total number of data centers, across the total number of regions, how many of these guys are there? We could literally delete all of their characters and it would not fix the housing system. So I'm not saying it's not worth addressing. I just think within this conversation it sometimes gets a little more attention than I would say it's worth from a standpoint of like fundamentally fixing what he's talking about. And I think we are at a more valid point saying how many should be personal, how many should not. Why does this game not have instance personal, period? What is free company housing even for? Why is it a mix? Why is it not just one or the other? How did we get here?
Look at this fucking guy. He owns the entire ward. How is this okay? You need to take all these houses away from this person. So here's the solution to housing. You need to take away all of these houses except for one. Give them a mansion. You know, whatever. If it was up to me, I'd give them a small. Fuck them. This person knows they're being an asshole. You know, whatever. Let them have one house. Everyone's entitled to one house.
His chat's asking how they did that. These are all different free companies, so they've got a bunch of characters. So they've got the account that lets you have more than one character on a server. They've got a bunch of characters lightly split across multiple accounts. It's possible that it's a group of like 2 or 3 friends, and so they've all got different free companies. They're all operating this as like a big RP type place. You'll see RP tag is in all of this. This is usually people who housing is their end game. They want to play Final Fantasy XIV for the social element, but really they want to play Sims while online with their friends like that. Something more where they are into the decorating part of the game. They want to do the crafting. They want to do the RP. The housing is their in-game, the same way that there might be people who only do PvP, who only do Savage and Ultimates, or only, you know, focus on Glamour or something like that. These people that only view one part of the game as their... Everybody that I've talked to that owns multiple houses has been somebody who is not viewing this game as like, what I love about this game is it offers 10 types of content for me. There's this one thing within this game and I adore that thing. And actually the other parts of gaming I get from other titles entirely. By the way, as a stop shout out, this came in the mail today. This is my Lulu mug. I ordered this a little while back and it showed up today. Very, very happy with it. Thank you. Nice way to support the fashionista, because that's a separate topic, but if you want them to exist, they need to be supported monetarily. Thank you guys for all you do.
house. Now, in my opinion, it should be account-wide. Would also solve the problem is why the fuck can't I have my alts tied to my house? They need to take all of these houses away. Whoever owns these houses knows that they're being an asshole. They're doing this on purpose, which, you know what? It's whatever, man. Like, this shit doesn't really bother me too much. Like, I already have a house, so I don't give a shit. But I'm trying to look out for the people that are really into housing, because this is fucking stupid right here.
The fact that they named them all the same says they were okay with people knowing this too. All they had to do was make up a bunch of individual names or name them after all their character names or something like that, and we would be none the wiser. So it is possible that there are people that have this kind of ownership, and it is just not as public. This is absolutely much closer to somebody leaving their add-on on the stream. Add-ons, for those of you that don't know, are things that modify the Final Fantasy XIV gameplay. I know many of you have ever heard of them. And then apparently some people have found ways to display that on their screen to then show that they've modified the game, which I know none of us would ever do.
And this is also fucking stupid. You have way too many FC wards, man. Like, what are you, like, dude, how did this even pass? I understand that there was a zero out bug. I understand that, you know, and I understand.
That's why I stopped to show it all earlier, so that we could show that the zero out bug was not all of these.
Understand that some of these houses got affected by this, okay? But dudes, if you're gonna sit there and try to tell me that all of these empty plots are because of a zero bug,
if it is, that's a free company of entirely people where none of the people with the ability to claim the house have logged in at all for the last several weeks, and they are going to lose their investment in like 2 days from when I'm recording this.
That's bullshit, because look, this is personal housing. Look at this shit. This is personal housing. Like, are you fucking...
We could check back in another 11 days from now, because what that will be is 2 days from now, it'll start another lottery. We'll go through another 4-day ticket buying window and then a 5-day claim window, and we could check on this again. But I don't think it's going to change that much. I think it's going to slow fill at this point.
For real? The zero bug happened to the personal housing and they're fucking full. Look how full this shit is. Anyway, those are my solutions to the fucking housing issue.
You'll notice the single player ones did fill up. There was only like 5 or 6 or whatever I said that got done. And so a lot of those did get claimed. I think the free company had a similar number get filled, but it was of a greater number missing. So the majority are actually just still unclaimed.
You take away this guy's house, all of his houses except one, you piss him off, yeah, sure. But how many people would you make happy? Like, what, 59 or whatever? 59. You piss one guy off, but make 50 plus people happy. You probably make the people happy that aren't even bidding on the house, that think it's fucked up that one FC or one...
Yeah, but I think that starts to be, like... How long is that happiness good for? Like, Square Enix, from that standpoint, if everybody who owns a free company and a personal house sees this happen, are they getting nervous? Are they getting mad? You know, are you really disrupting all of this? Like, Brian, that runs Work to Game with me, owns our free company house, and I own a personal house. But if I had happened to be the one that had the free company house in my name, and our free company lost their house, or I lost my house, which was 78 hours of clicking on a sign, and it's my own space that I go to on stream, and it's my space, like, that puts me in a weird spot, just to try to have some empathy for these people. So, like, I think saying we're going to make people happier by watching somebody else get punished, that, like, seeing 59 other names is this long-term happiness. No, at the time you're like, ah, got him. But it's the same amount of happiness as when somebody cuts you off and gets pulled over by a cop. You're not remembering that days or weeks later. You've moved on to focus on your own life again, or hopefully something in your life has given you a reason to move on and focus on actual joy in your own life instead of that one bad thing happened to that other person, you know, 10 million years ago.
One person can own this many houses like me. I'm not even gonna probably bid on any of this shit, but I'd still be happy. So that's solution one. The second thing you gotta do, holy shit, man, you gotta open up more of these fucking housing wards for personal housing. Jesus Christ.
No.
It should...
No. That's how we got here. That's how we got here. We'll talk about that.
Be the opposite. It should be like 7 through 24 should be personal housing.
Nope.
1 through 6 should be FC. That's it!
No. So just to pause on that note, the reason you don't do that is that free company housing has a long-term benefit. Free companies, people quit, people come back, new people come in. So free companies are a living, breathing thing. They're the only way to access airships. They are the only way to access submarines. You have more people getting access to the farm plot. So maybe the person who bought the house wanted the farm plot, and then as they become less active or take a break from the game, somebody else in a free company says, do you mind if I use it? So free company houses, in theory, are a lot more social. And so letting those slow fill, just because they didn't sell out on day one, remember, we only add housing wards every billion months. So as long as these fill before the next housing ward adds, that's fine, because once they're full, they tend to stay full. They very rarely turn. On Sargatanas, when there's not a new housing ward, it's 1 to 3 plots are rotating across all the wards at any given time. And so I would say chill out on that. I was often not even able to, when I was going through Housing Savage, I wasn't able to pick what ward I was what district I was going to, what capital city. I was going through all of them looking, and I was just bidding on whichever one was available at a time. We did Housing Savage Mondays, and every Monday I clicked on a sign for 6 to 8.5 hours for weeks on end to get my house. And people were like, how'd you pick this plot? Because it's the only one. But there's a lot of other people clicking, but it's the only one. So like, I wouldn't say let's do a knee-jerk reaction and take these personal. I would say leave them free company. And so now at this point, I think he's wrapping up.
Video over.
Video over. Thank you, Xenos, for getting us started on a very intense topic. Let's talk about what housing is and how we got here, because I think a lot of new people to the community, you see I got a bunch of tabs taking us through history. There are a lot of people that come from other games that have better housing. Even if those games introduced housing before Final Fantasy, whatever, those games have turned out to, with hindsight, have made a better set of choices, maybe even with foresight made a better set of choices. But let's talk about what the plan was. So, in A Realm Reborn, they rebuilt A Realm Reborn in basically 18 months. Watch the documentary, go nuts. And in 2.38, okay, this is September 16th, is that what the 9 is? I don't know. August 16th, I don't know what 9s are, whatever. 9, 16, 14, whatever that is. Who knows? Maybe it's European and it's the 9th day of the 16th month. Seems unlikely. And so we are all the way back in 2014, and we are in the 2.3 content. This is mid-cycle content. We're looking down the barrel at things like FanFest at that point when you talk about across all expansions. We are across that point. You have gotten your, in modern expansions, you have gotten your second raid tier by that point. So come 6.3, we would be looking at the second Alliance raid. We'd already have beaten Pandemonium 5 through 8. In theory, 6.3, we'd be looking at another Ultimate. These, of course, didn't exist back in ARR, but let's kind of talk about what a 0.3 patch is. This 0.3, we're also going to be looking at getting a deep dungeon, having gotten a Criterion dungeon in 0.2. PvP will likely continue to get updates. We'll have events going on and all of that. This is the halfway point. Now, up until Endwalker, 0.3 is also mid-cycle of the second half of the story. The story comes in 2 parts. Part 1 is the 0.0 patch, big bulk of the story, sets up something, resolves a lot of it, then sets up a little bit more, a cliffhanger, and then we carry that from 0.1 through 0.3, and that is the finale of the expansion. And then with 0.4 and 5, we begin setting up the next expansion. 0.0, big boom, 0.1, 2, 3, wrap it up. So with 2.3, just think of what a 0.3 patch means to you today, and housing being added at a mid-cycle patch. The .x8 just gives them some flexibility. Over the years, they've been fairly consistent on when the point and the number 1 through 5 releases, and when the half patch, 0.15, 0.25, and so on. But the like 0.11s, that's something like 2 weeks after 0.1. The 0.18s just means sometime between the half patch and the next patch. It's not, to my knowledge, it's not like a specific number of days. Remember that with 6.18 that we're looking down the barrel at, that just puts it somewhere in the July window, and that is our data center visit. So these is a great time to add social features that might break the servers, that might rock things a little bit, because you're not necessarily messing with anybody. Is how that's what the .x8s have come to be known as, but we're way back in time. So not all of that applies here, just to kind of set the tone for what that is. Now at this point, we've added some new quests, we've added delivery moogles and all of that, but most important, what we want to talk about is the addition of a feature called housing. Okay? Now, housing has been added. And so a large amount of additional land is also scheduled for implementation in 2.4. The price for plots will vary depending on world population and economy. This was a way of separating out legacy wards where players came in, 1.0 players came in and were much, much wealthier. This was a way of kind of separating them out. The following will be starting prices, and every 6 hours, the original price will fall, and it will fall to half after a period of 30 days. So that's its kind of like half-life there. And so these are your prices based on the different servers. And so when you talk about the legacy wards and then you work your way down, I assume these aren't legacy wards because this is where Sargatanas is. That's why I'm on Sargatanas. I came to play with 1.0 players like Brian. I was not a 1.0 player. I'm a fresh 2.0 player. And so you purchase land and you watch this devaluation timer tick down. Many of you remember this before we moved to lottery and go, what's that timer mean? And it effectively didn't mean anything anymore, but it still existed. So what this was designed to be is this was designed to be a social feature. These were meant to be neighborhoods. There were only supposed to be a limited number. It was supposed to be this desirable thing that you would save up and earn, and then it would create this social feature that we would all engage in. My free company actually would regularly run dungeons with the free company who lived in the house behind us. They've long since quit the game and another group has moved in that we don't talk to, so it's kind of like neighbors in real life. And so this is kind of meant to be this thing. Now, over the years, we've added other features to houses, but initially it really was very, very largely chocobo stables and cosmetics. That's a huge portion of what it was. It was a massive flex, and it was this social place to be. Now that means you would want to tie it to free companies. So what happens? Players want some of this. A limited number of player rooms are added per houses over the years. That number is really still fixed, and people want to have housing. They want to have personal housing, and so what do we do? At some point, the wards, I believe these were free company only at the beginning, if I remember correctly, and then it became personal when they weren't selling fast enough, which is how I remember it. I don't see that in here, but that's how I remember it. Maybe I'm just false remembering there, but I think that's how I remember it, and I think it should have been left free company forever, then we wouldn't be in the mess we are today. Now, what did we add for single players? Now, let's fast forward way in time. We are in the second half of Heavensward, patch 3.4. Patch 3.4, apartments become available in all three, there's only 3 residential districts. Apartments are not subject to auto demolition. This is meant to be much more friendly towards individual players. They will not get access to submarines or airships and all of that, but that's fine because personal houses don't. So, not like airships and submarines didn't all, like that's something that's come in over time, but just to kind of put that in date. So we are now all the way forward in 2016, and we now have apartments. We jump all the way forward just a little bit later, and we have now added our first new housing ward. This was supposed to be the solution to be all solutions. With 4.0, we have introduced the Shirogane Housing District. Okay, so with the Shirogane Housing District, we are now in 2017, and it feels like they are moving forward. But at this point, somewhere along the way, what has happened is houses are regularly sold out, and they have not continued updating those prices. So what now happens is people are illicitly trading houses, and people are using bots to get these houses, because somewhere along this way, I don't see this in the patch notes, but what we moved to was instead of a first come first serve, houses were always in demand. So to stop people from selling houses to one another through discords and things like that, which basically the way it worked is you would say, pay me this much, you and I will agree at a random hour, 2 in the morning on a Tuesday. You will stand in front of the house, I will abandon the house, and you will immediately click purchase, and we will do it when no one else is around, and that's how I guarantee that I'm transferring the house to you. With a grand company, or a free company, I could just transfer you ownership of the free company. So that's how this existed after the following change was implemented. I don't remember when this was along this journey, but let's stop and talk about it before we get into 6.1. So somewhere in here, we moved to a system where they needed to add an invisible timer. The invisible timer basically said sometime between 0 seconds, and I believe the longest was like 48 hours or something like that, the house will become available. It will not tell you when, which means the devaluation timer is still ticking in. It may even take effect, but the houses you are clicking, and it's the first person to click after the invisible timer goes off, but there is no visual indicator it's gone off. So you basically just click the sign repeatedly, which encouraged bot behavior. The goal here was still to make this a social feature, but by this point, it had largely moved to, it was just being bought by people either operating with free companies by themselves, or free companies where only a handful of players were using the housing districts, or personal ones. So if you are not in a ward that naturally has for some reason been social, most wards are like my wards where I never see anybody in either of them. My personal house or my free company house, I never see anybody. I spent an entire podcast when I was a guest the other day running around houses in my ward. I didn't see a single other person that I can remember. There's nobody in these wards. They're dead. And so that is kind of where we've gotten to, and the lottery. So what it was is it was a social feature designed to keep resources on the server. And so what that means is they've proven to be very expensive. They can't add an unlimited number of wards because since it's social, they needed to always be loaded. If there's a single person in the ward, it's loading the whole ward on the server with all their decorations and everything. So because it wasn't instanced from the get-go, because it was designed to be social, they've locked themselves into a system that does not scale. It takes up actual physical server resources. So this is much closer to you having to keep like a Excel document open on the RAM on your computer. One Excel document's not very heavy, or one web page may not be very heavy. But if you keep an unlimited number open, eventually you'll run out of RAM on the computer. Now the answer would be, well, don't keep it on RAM, Dumbo. Keep it on your hard drive. Yes, but now I have to go back and rebuild the system from the ground up. It wasn't designed to do that. Ishgard housing is the first, Ishgard Sanctuary is the first thing that's ever been equated with housing that likely could be built in a different way, but they have already told us in interviews it is not housing. So we don't know what it is. Hopefully it will act as aspects of housing, and hopefully it will be the beginning of them testing tech that would one day allow them to fill the gaps of what instance housing would do for the player base. But in the meantime, it is not a one-for-one of housing. That's really all we know is things that it's not. It's not Animal Crossing, it's not housing, it's not. We know very little about what it is. So let's jump forward to April. Patch 6.1. We're ready to add Ishgard housing. We spent all of Stormblood Shadowbringers rebuilding the city of Ishgard's housing district. There was some story associated with that, why the locals might be excited about it, which is a nice touch because the other wards, in my opinion, don't do a particularly good job addressing the locals. So it kind of feels like, where are they living? Or do adventurers that use their house once every 45 days get these big mansions and there's a bunch of homeless NPCs? But that's getting off into weird canonical representation. And so we get over here and we talk about housing being added with patch 6.1, and we have now moved to a lottery system, the first major and significant change over a series of iterations where we have slowly realized more and more that housing is something we want to add features to, like submarines, airships, gardens, updating your chocobos, and all of these housing decorations that have been added basically every single patch this entire time. But there's a limited quantity, and this is all of the times we've added them. We haven't really added more housing that often. So we moved to a lottery system. This is going to be perfect. Everybody believes this is going to solve everything. Free company states to get these back to being social will be wards 1 through 18. Private estates will be left for 19 to 24. However, if you already own a house, it will stay there unless you choose to have that house not be active for 45 days. There are exceptions when there's something like a natural disaster that affects a region, or the game has trouble letting you log in around like the endwalker launch or things like that. They freeze the 45-day timer, but as soon as possible, they turn that 45-day timer back on. And so we have seen windows where people could be away, but like if you're away, you don't know when the timer gets turned back on. So those people might be safe for a little bit, but I assume a fair portion of them think they'll be back, and then they come back and their house sure is gone. So this is to avoid the reselling of plots. You must now remain in a free company for a minimum of 30 days to get away from the people jumping the system. And a final feature of all of these houses throughout here is that once you had a house, you had the ability to jump the line. That invisible timer, if you had a house, you could transfer there immediately. Multiple times I was trying to buy a house, clicking on the sign, and somebody just transferred in. The timer wasn't up, didn't matter, they can buy it immediately. What do? Now I get to go find what ward they were in, and it starts a fresh timer on a fresh 0 to 48 hour thing, which means statistically it's not up for at least another 12 hours, and it wastes my time. So there was this idea of like, when I got my house, people were like, well, are you okay with the word you're getting? And all I could think is, well, I don't have to be, because once you're in the housing system, I can wait for the ideal position to open up. And so a lot of times the ones that people were getting that were new to housing were the less desirable ones in the less desirable wards, further from market boards and so on. Not all the time. I got a particularly good one, but because the other ones were getting transferred into, and people were always upgrading into mediums, larges, better positions, etc., and then they were leaving behind their worst plots, and that was going to the people that were new into the system. So we have removed that. People by this point no longer jump the line, and free companies are no longer a way of I'll just transfer ownership. You now must remain in a company for a minimum of 30 days before you can purchase the free company plot. So So you can't just create a new one. And we're starting to try to build systems to get away from the bad behavior for people circumventing all of this. The price will no longer reduce over time, but that hasn't really been an effect. And then we continue to just add more crap for it. But then what happens to catch everybody up? The housing lottery fails. There are people that actually, what happens is it goes ahead and on the internal server, what it does is the housing lottery picks a winner, but in some cases it does not send that winner to the actual housing server. So it ends up showing that the person with lottery ticket number 0, which is not everybody else got a number, lottery ticket number 0 won, and therefore nobody can claim it. The way the housing lottery works, for anybody just catching up on it at this point, is you have 4 days to buy a ticket. It doesn't matter when you buy the ticket, but at the time you buy the ticket, you can see how many other people have bought tickets for that particular house. Buy it whenever you want in the 4 days, much like a real-life lottery. Buying it first doesn't help you. Then there is going to be a drawing, much like the Cackpot thing, and then there's going to be a 5-day claim window. Everybody who paid for a ticket, you have to pay a full price. Everybody who paid full price and doesn't win needs to go claim their money from that sign. And everybody who won has 5 days to claim it at full price and get their house. Or if they shorted the system by not buying it, they only get half their money back to discourage people from buying wards or buying a plot and then going, you know what, never mind, and wasting everybody's time because now that house has to go back through another 9-day cycle. But this time it didn't happen. We got to the end of the 4 days and a whole bunch of ones didn't take. Now, the disadvantage there is a lot of people had to pick which house they wanted to bet for. They didn't have the money for a free company to bet across multiple, and I believe personals can only bet on one. So they all picked. Well, now all those losers are still in the I want to buy a house category, and we know they have the money. So all of the people who didn't pick a winner, what if you were the winner and you don't know? But you know that that pool that you're in is only going to get larger because now all the people who wanted that plot before still do, and all these other people who maybe that was their second or third choice are going to come over and join in. And they said, don't worry, we kept your data and we are going to take our time, much like any of you who lived through World of Warcraft's auction house debacle in patch 8.3. Don't worry, but we want to be sure we implement this correctly. So rather than haphazardly trying to do an overnight bug fix, we think we have it fixed. We're going to test this on private internal test servers. We're going to make sure this is exactly right. We will roll it out when we are certain that this is perfect because we don't want this becoming something that is a problem once, twice, 3 times, and so on. So at this point, as of now, we have got this corrected. The patch has rolled out and people have until the 26th to claim. And of May, they got basically a whole month instead of 5 days. And so as we jump here, they have until May 26th at kind of reset there, and then we will move back into the lottery system. Oh, actually, right then, I don't know why I thought it was the 27th. So hopefully that helps, and then to help them along the way, they went ahead and sent all those people their gil back, which means some people got to claim a house and they got their gil for free. They have said they're going to add a NPC to the game if you feel guilty about getting that gil back and you want to just yeet it into the void. My suggestion would be find some people with sprouts that aren't on free trial accounts. One of the ways to quickly identify a non-free trial account is that they are gilded. So look for people that are in a free company with a sprout next to their head. Ask them if they're new. Welcome to the game. The most gil you can trade at a particular time is 1 million. Hand them 1 million gil and then find another one. And so if you really feel guilty about having 3, 4, 10 million gil, hand it to a sprout, make their day, say welcome to the game. I think that's a better use than yeeting it to the NPCs. You don't feel like you got something for free, and you passed it on to the community in a way that will hopefully make somebody's day where they go, oh my god, I just got my first 200,000 from finishing ARR, and this person just walked up and handed me 1 million. This is amazing. And so that is where we are at. At this point, we do not know if there will ever be future wards. We do not know if the number of wards per district will ever be increased. It has been over the years. We do not know if we are going to increase the number of apartments or anything like that, but hopefully at this point we have at least put this to bed in a place where it can rest. Much like the add-on debate, it will come back because they have not created a long-term solution, but hopefully at this point we have slowly iterated on what we thought was a social feature and it needed to be perpetually loaded on the server. It turns out there was a lot wrong with that choice. It's not a social feature for all people, and it should not be permanently loaded because then you cannot have enough for 25 million players, especially when some of those players are wanting it for free company and some are personal, which means some people want it for both. And then we have continued to add support for this system over the years, and at this point we've now tried to make the best of a bad system. But this is not the best housing system. They are making the best of a bad system. That is where they are at. This is a fundamental flaw. You see Yoshi P regularly talk about the decisions we made at the time. We made with the best of intentions, with the best of knowledge, the best of technology and resources at the time. And yes, if we had the knowledge and foresight and the capabilities that we do now, maybe we would have done them differently. But that is not to say we're not proud of how we got here and that it wasn't the best we could do. It is. It just turns out that there were some flaws with that over time, as they've gotten better as devs, technology's gotten better, they've gotten more resources, they've got more time instead of rushing an entire expansion out the door over the top of what was basically a disaster of an MMO launch. And so the housing lottery system is a bad fix to a bad problem, but there's not this wildly better one. There's not anything that really makes this any more fair. Any other system, yes, it may benefit you or the group that you feel is more entitled to this house. Maybe people who took part in Ishgard Restoration should get priority. Maybe they should be all free company or all personal, or it should be first come, first serve across all, or a mix, and all the smalls should. But like, no matter what you do, somebody's going to be unhappy in all instances. Maybe they should take everybody's personal houses away. Maybe they should take whatever. Somebody is unhappy in every single version of this. There is no perfect way forward, but hopefully we are in a position where this is the last time that we have to talk about housing and catch people up on housing for a significant amount of time before they go back and maybe we end up rebuilding Garlemald and we live there, or Smileton results in us getting housing on the moon, or we get housing added with Mercidia or Corvos or wherever the hell we're going in 7.0. Or maybe just more wards on existing places that we've been. Maybe Island Sanctuary gives way to instanced housing. Maybe that is a thing. I don't know what it is, but I do know that it feels weird every single patch to get new housing items added that most people can't engage with, to have things like Favnarian onions locked behind housing, to have the submarine and airship system locked behind housing, but then because only free company houses have access to it, they can only make it so cool, because it would be BS if they spent a bunch of time making submarines and airships amazing and then 5% of the player base engaged, but the total number that wanted to engage was much larger. They just, oh, well, I'm in a free company, but my free company leader said that they're the one that gets to choose voyages. So like, there's just this incredibly limited set of rules around choices that were made all the way back leading into 9/16 of 2014. We did not get here with today's information. This is not, oh my god, well, this game is coming out, oh, well, I like New World System, or oh, well, I like this game that's coming out in 2025, or it's ridiculous that with 25 million players they would do this. No. This was a game that was having success relaunching an MMO, which as of this point had not really been done and couldn't be done. They had just achieved the impossible. They were flying by the seat of their pants. They were running low on resources, and they were just trying things out. This is the same dev team that thought MSQ Roulette would be something that would grow and turn into a great piece of content and didn't. This is the same group that thought they would support companions forever and that squadrons would be this great solution and not need to give way to trusts and then the duty support system. This is the same devs that thought that a sightseeing system would be something that is best if you had to wait till a time of day to go to a spot that you cannot see, and later decided blue orbs and slash lookout was enough. They have changed their mind on things, but unfortunately, sometimes, even when they want to change their minds, they have put foundational blocks in at a previous date, and they are bound by not only the decisions that they made back in 4.0, but also the ones in 3.4, 2.38, and before, kinda.